today's video, I'm going to be giving you my legal sector predictions for 2022. AI, automation, AI, legal tech. So we're looking at firms like White & Case, we're looking at Clifford Chance, I think Hogan Lovells will probably be in there as well, ESG, COVID, Brexit, and cryptos. Happy New Year, everybody. If you don't already know, I'm Steph, and on this channel, I just talk about all things careers and all things lifestyle. And in today's videos, I'm going to be giving you my legal sector predictions for 2022. Now, I did do a really quick Google search, and in all honesty, the main things that were just coming up was AI, automation, AI, legal tech. So, not to say that you shouldn't be looking out for legal tech trends, but I just hope that this video will give you something a little bit different, because I'm going to be looking at ESG, COVID, Brexit, and crypto. So those are four really key and important areas that I think we should be looking out for in 2022. Please do make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and let's get straight into the video. Okay, so the first trend that I want to talk about for 2022 is ESG. And for those of you who don't know what ESG is, that's environmental, social, governance. Now, I think to understand the impact of what this might have on the legal sector in 2022 is first important to understand how different practice areas in the commercial law kind of space are broken up. Now, 9 times out of 10, most people will tell you about transactional and contentious. Transactional being like all of the deals, so all of the big stuff that you hear in the news, like mergers and acquisitions, private equity takeovers, all that kind of stuff. And then contentious being like the litigation, going to court type thing. Now, those are obviously very broad generalizations, but that's typically how people tend to categorize what goes on in commercial law. There is actually a third area that a lot of people don't tend to speak about, and that's advisory. And advisory is linked to different regulations that might come out, because as I'm sure would make a lot of sense to you, when new regulations are going to be coming out that would impact a business, clients naturally want to know what is it that they need to do to prepare to make sure that they're going to be in compliance with these new regulations. Now, why do clients generally do that? Basically just because it can cost a lot of money, depending on where you are in the world. The amount will kind of vary, but it can cost a lot of money if you're not compliant with government regulations or different regulatory boards with their rules. So just to kind of make sure that clients are saving money, they're always going to want to make sure that they're staying on top of these things. Now, ESG impacts each of those areas, which is what makes it such a potential gold mine for the legal sector. How does it impact advisory? Well, we've just had COP26 at the end of 2021. We've also got things like the SFDR rules, which were meant to come out in, I believe it was August 2022, but they've actually just been postponed to the 1st of January 2023. So we've got a number of different kind of regulatory rules that are going to be coming out or should be coming out across 2022 and at the very beginning of 2023. What does this mean? It means clients are going to want to know what is it that they need to do to make sure that they're compliant. That's a lot of advisory work for lawyers, which is amazing. Law firms which have already kind of positioned themselves as thought leaders in the ESG space, they're going to be right on top of the things that they need to do. So we're looking at firms like White & Case, we're looking at Clifford Chance, I think Hogan Lovells will probably be in there as well, a couple of other firms as well, but literally just by doing your Google searches, you can see which firms have done a lot of kind of think pieces around how ESG is going to be impacting their clients. So that is something to look out for. How can ESG then maybe impact the transactional space? So we're looking at all the deals and stuff, right? Well, on that side, I personally think, especially in places like finance, so we're looking at capital markets, debt finance, bank finance, etc., we're going to see a change in the type of debt instruments that are going to be issued. And I personally think, because a lot of investors are going to be calling for more what we call green bonds or socially acceptable investments, there will be more green investment. Another way that the transactional area might actually be impacted by ESG kind of links to the advisory nature as well. Because if we start to see that certain regulatory bodies are requiring investment companies to invest a particular amount of their funds into ESG related products, then it means that by the very nature of having to comply with the regulations, clients are going to have to invest in more green bonds or in more socially acceptable investments. So there's definitely going to be an increase in that kind of level of finance transactions. What about things like litigation? Again, this also links back to advisory. So everything in the legal sector does tend to link together. But as there is that transitional period between where there's now going to be new ESG rules coming into place, you will find that a lot of things do actually need to be litigated on so that we can determine what the meaning is. What am I actually getting at here? Well, as new definitions are brought out and some of the new regulations that come about, these new definitions have to be interpreted just because of how the UK legal system works. So we're probably going to find that a lot of these cases will have to go to court so that we can get proper definitions, and then we'll understand what it is that we need to do to advise our clients better on the ESG space. What's the second thing that I want to talk to you about then? Well, it's COVID. And it might sound like it's a weird time to be focusing on COVID, especially seeing as it started in 2019 and we're now in 2022. But hold on with me, bear with me, I am getting at something here. Now that we've been going into the pandemic for coming on to 3 years now, this is actually a really good time for law firms to rejig and rethink about their legal operations. What does that mean for you as an applicant? You being able to speak about this shows that you understand that a law firm is at its very root just a business. Now that's actually something that's very, very important, and it's a place where a lot of applicants tend to fall short. A lot of applicants tend to forget that, especially with commercial law firms, one key thing that they want you to be able to show is that you do understand that the law firm is a business. So how can COVID be impacting law firms as a business? Law firms have had to have their staff working from home. Now this is something that's typically not very common in the legal sector. Though it's not necessarily an industry where workers need to be in an office, because of the type of teamwork and collaborative work that we tend to do, especially with regard to deals, most law firms like to have their fee earners in the office. So what is COVID actually going to do in 2022? Well, in all honesty, we don't know, but it is something that law firms are going to have to be thinking about. They're going to have to be thinking about what kind of hybrid model do they want to implement going forward? How are they going to make sure that the offices are safe such that people can still come in and work collaboratively and meet up with clients as people normally would, but COVID restrictions are still in place? Another way that COVID could be impacting the legal sector, which you could definitely talk about, is how the legal sector is integrating their new hires. Hello, I'm one of them. I joined the firm right at the beginning of the pandemic and I had to start my training contract in a lockdown. How does that actually work in practice? How do we ensure that the new lawyers that are coming through the different training processes are equally being equipped with the same skills that they would have gotten had they been receiving face-to-face training? And what is the third thing that I think we should be looking out for in terms of legal trends in 2022? Well, that's Brexit. Yes, we are bringing back Brexit. And why am I saying we should be looking out for Brexit? You're going to be having some changes coming into place on the 1st of January 2022. So that means we are still going to be seeing the impact of Brexit in 2022. So how can you relate that to maybe an interview question, or you just showing that you're commercially aware or generally aware of what's going on in the world? It's simple. Again, Brexit's a bit similar to COVID. It's something that a lot of clients are generally just going to be concerned about. Depending on what kind of business clients may be in and depending on the law firm that you may be interviewing at, there will be particular clients who will want to be on top of what the new changes are going to be, especially with regard to EU imports and exports, because that might be what their sole business is about. So there's a lot of opportunity, especially from an advisory nature, for lawyers to be able to advise clients on what these new changes are and how to stay on top of them. Another thing that I would say is good for you to do, especially if you're preparing for interviews, is type in some of these things on Google. I remember when I was looking in preparation for this video, I had a look and I saw that Travis Smith had written a really good article about this. And what does that tell me? That tells me that Travis Smith has clients who care about Brexit, because Travis Smith is a business. They're not going to invest their time in making sure that they are teaching people about some of the impacts of Brexit unless they know it's going to give them a return. So that's the kind of thing that I would be doing to check and see, if I was to be maybe applying for Travis Smith, for example, and I got an interview with them, then I would probably bring this kind of thing up because I can see that they've done a think piece about it. So it's something that they want to be a thought leader in. And therefore, it's probably important to their business model, maybe because they have clients in that space. I don't know. The final trend that I think we should be keeping an eye on in 2022 is the rise of cryptocurrencies. Now, full disclaimer here, I don't pretend to be any kind of financial expert. If you want to know more about cryptocurrencies purely from a financial sense, I suggest you go and have a look at some other videos over on YouTube or any other resources that you can find online. But in terms of thinking about how it could impact the legal sector, when I was looking at this online, I saw a lot of things around what new regulations will be coming in for cryptocurrencies, because obviously it's such a new form of payment that regulations are still consistently being made. And that would lead you, if you've been listening very carefully to my video, to think that there would be a lot of opportunity for the advisory side of law. And I think that's right. Another thing that made me interested in cryptocurrencies is the fact that I personally have seen the increasing use of debt instruments, so for example bonds, being backed by the use of cryptocurrencies. What does that actually mean? A lot of the time when a debt instrument for a very large sum is taken out, so if we go with the example of a bond, one way that you can kind of make sure that the person who is lending the money has a bit of security is that you can say that, well, this is going to be backed by a particular thing, and it may be backed by a number of banks, or it would be backed by some assets like maybe property or something like that. But increasingly we are finding that some of these debt instruments are being backed by cryptocurrencies. So we're talking blockchain, we're talking Bitcoin, we're talking Binance, we're talking Ethereum. Like, all of the cryptocurrencies that you can think of are increasingly being used in debt instruments. And I think that's a very interesting thing that we should be keeping an eye on. Now, I haven't seen that many on the London Stock Exchange yet, but I have definitely seen some on the German Stock Exchange. I've seen some in some other stock markets as well. So it's something that could increasingly be coming to the UK and could increasingly be changing the way that we are actually practicing the law in, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years. So I think it is definitely something to keep an eye on. And I think if you're able to speak about that effectively in an interview, and I'll link an article down below that might actually help you with this. If you can speak about this effectively in an interview, you will show that you understand the law firm as a business, because you're showing that you understand the future of the law and you understand how that can impact what you should be doing right now. You'll show that you understand commercial awareness, because you're keeping on top of the latest trends. And you'll make me very, very happy, because you would have listened to some of my amazing advice. And of course, you would have subscribed to this channel after you've listened to this advice as well. So those are my 4 legal sector predictions for 2022. I really hope you've enjoyed them and that they're a little bit different to what else you can find online. If you like this kind of content, please do make sure that you like, comment and subscribe as ever. And I'll be back again soon with another video.